Hey, good morning. Hey, listen, today we are talking about should you pre-order parts or not? The common belief among collision repairs is that if you write an estimate and then you pre-order the parts, then when the vehicle arrives for the repair appointment, then the thinking is that the cycle time is going to be much quicker. Now, do you think that's true? Now, stick around for a couple minutes and I'm going to reveal the reality of this common belief. Welcome to Body Shop Management Tip of the Week. I'm Dave Luehr, your body shop business coach and the founder of Elite Body Shop Solutions, and I'm super pumped to be here with you this morning. So let's attack this belief head on, shall we? So if you write an estimate and then pre-order the parts based on your estimate prior to the vehicle arriving for the repair appointment, will it improve the cycle time? That's the big question here. And the answer is, from my experience and a lot of research on the subject, is usually not. And here's why. What most shops are still doing is they're writing what we like to call guesstimates. They're taking 10, 15 minutes to write a curb written estimate on what they can see, and then they order what we call the first on parts. Okay, those are the parts that need to go on the car first. So what happens when the vehicle arrives then? Well, it gets assigned to a repair technician. They disassemble the vehicle only to discover all the other parts that they need, right? Quite often we call these the first on parts. And we call them the first on parts is because you've got to install these. You've got to weld them in place. You've got to put them on before the last on parts that you pre-ordered get to go on the car. Does that make sense? And in fact, it doesn't even usually end there, does it? So for most shops watching this, if you track the average number of repair order invoices, most shops have a lot of them, right? Sometimes 7, 8, 10 of them on some of the bigger jobs. So let me ask you this, is that efficient? Of course it's not. So does your pre-ordering really improve your cycle time? Listen, there are certainly exceptions to this. Now, for example, some people are able to pre-order some of the sheet metal, maybe the bumper covers, and actually paint them prior to the vehicle's arrival. Now, that would certainly improve your cycle time. There's no doubt about it if you can perfect that kind of a system. However, for most shops, all pre-ordering does for you is contribute to more chaos. And we don't want that, do we? My good friend and industry consultant, a guy named Ron Kewen, once told me this. He told me this years ago, and I'll never forget it. He says, when it comes to lean thinking, he said, lean doesn't always mean faster. And it took me a little while to wrap my head around that, but I really understand and appreciate what he said. The point of the statement is that lean literally means the removal of waste from the process, doesn't it? It's the removal of waste, which incidentally quite often does speed things up. So even if you could speed up a repair job cycle time by pre-ordering some of the parts, ask yourself this: at what cost are you doing so? What waste does it actually add to your business by trying to speed up the cycle time by pre-ordering the parts? Here's a couple. Are you ready for this? It's probably going to require additional man hours to manage the multiple orders and all the returns that are likely to ensue from all of your just-in-case parts. So, and when you do that, do you really think you're being a good business partner to your part suppliers? I don't think so. So not only it's going to require additional man hours for your estimators and your parts manager, isn't it? That costs you. But what about the poor people that have to manage all the invoices in the office, right? On the accounting side, that have to deal with all the returns and the invoices. Then if that's not enough, go ask your technicians how they like starting and stopping every time you give them a job, or if they would prefer to be given repair jobs that they can work on continuously from start to finish. I think we know what they would say. Okay, here's another aspect. Shop space, right? How many square feet you have. It requires more shop space to store all of these cars that are waiting for multiple supplemental parts, doesn't it? And if you pre-order parts, you may need to have extra square footage just to store them, right? When you store parts, instead of actively placing them on a repair job, you're driving up your inventory and your inventory costs. And that quite often can damage your cash flow. So your cash flow can be negatively affected by pre-ordering. Okay. Now, listen, I could go on and on, but I think that you would agree that that describes enough waste to make my point. Some of you may try to tell me that your insurance companies won't allow you to bring repair jobs into your shop until the parts are on hand. Really? That is like so 1980s, isn't it? Aren't they the same folks who are basing their rental car allowance on a cycle time metric of 4 hours a day touch time? This cracks me up because the national average is around 2 hours a day. The high performing shops, some of our high performing clients that I deal with, they can get, they can get fairly close to 4 hours a day, but they would never consider pre-ordering parts unless they've properly analyzed the damage on the vehicle up front. That's the secret here. Okay, so far I've given you some compelling reasons why you shouldn't pre-order parts. So are there exceptions? Of course there is. Yes, indeedly do. There are certain parts of the US and a lot of areas in Canada, these guys struggle to get parts in a timely fashion, right? I get it. Can you imagine what business would be like for these guys if they order a bunch of wrong parts and then had to wait another week or two every time they found a supplement? It's insanity, right? Some of you are finding it difficult to get parts during this pandemic too, right? I'm very sensitive to that. So what do you do in these cases? Well, you go ahead and you pre-order those parts. I know, the opposite of everything I just said, but not after writing a poorly written guesstimate, but only after performing a proper enhanced appraisal, or like they call it in the UK, a VDA, or vehicle damage assessment. This is where you take the time necessary to properly analyze, even if it means doing some minor disassembly to the vehicle, incorporating those OEM repair procedures, connecting a scan tool, all of those things that you should be doing. And this ain't going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, in 15 minutes. No, you're going to need to perform your appraisals by appointment only. Now, when you've taken the time to analyze the damage thoroughly, then doesn't it make a little more sense to pre-order those parts with the goal to have only one order, one invoice? This is lean thinking, my friend. A complete order is what you want delivered just prior to the arrival of the repair job going into production. This is lean. Unless you're dealing with difficult to find parts or intergalactic back orders that we sometimes have, the decision to pre-order or not, it's actually relatively simple. Would you like to know what it is? Here's my simple rule. A, if you're confident that you have captured 100% of the damage with your appraisal, order the parts. B, if you're not confident, don't. Pretty simple, right? Go back to A. That's how this works. So what I'm seeing from the highest performing shops all over North America and in other parts of the world, they use what I call a hybrid approach. So they schedule enhanced appraisals on the smaller jobs where it's easier to capture all the damage. They're setting themselves up for success this way. Then they pre-order the parts and schedule the repairs on those type of jobs. Now, on the bigger things with a lot of severity, they insist on doing a full disassembly and a blueprint with the vehicle permanently dropped off at their shop before they order anything. Now, I believe this is the best way to do it. So listen, I hope you got a lot out of today's message. Leave a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what you think of today's message. If you want to learn more about the concepts that I'm talking about today, consider becoming a member of our amazing online body shop management training community. It's called Operations Monthly Live. And we have hours and hours of content that's relevant to today's topic. With a very affordable OML subscription, you get to join me and many of North America's best body shop operators every month for live and interactive training experience. To learn more, just visit our academy at elitebodyshopsolutions.com/academy. Guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Dave Luehr, and I will see you next week. Thank you.